So welcome all our newcomers. I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you are calling from, so that we get a good recording of this call while we are presenting. We will mute all the microphones with the exception of the presenters. All right, 2 more minutes and then we will kick off because we've got a lot of information for you tonight. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's ugly. Life in the US right now, the good, the bad, the ugly, stupidly ugly. What can I say? Well, we got some really great news in Virginia. I will cover that just as an aside later on in the event that not everybody has heard. All right, 1 more minute and then Indianapolis, yay. Yay, yay. So delighted. And Ohio is here. This is great. This is really, really great. All right. All right. Gloucester, Oakland, North Carolina, Redwood City, the Bay Area, North Carolina, Florida, Connecticut, Berkeley. I used to live in Albany, right next to Berkeley, Texas. Oh, wow. Yes. Lynchburg. Very, very great. A lot of outside Virginia, Ohio, Venice, California, New Jersey, Long Island. All right. Great, great, great. Great, great, great. Yeah. Normally I know where it hangs out and it's
Mexico. Authorities serving Nancy Guthrie and his face.
Yeah, Edwan, we're hearing from you. So whatever that is, it's the GA. You're going to need to kill it while we are here. Yes. So our public policy director is always watching what is going on in the Virginia General Assembly, and there is always so much going on. Okay, John, go ahead and it's not there. Go ahead and start the slideshow. Great, 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 great. All right. And this is the official welcome. So, everybody, welcome. I'm Andrea Miller. I am the executive director and founding board member of Center for Common Ground. You are joining us tonight for how to advocate for democracy in your hometown. You don't need to go to DC. You don't need to go to your state capital. Wherever you are, there is a way for you to reach out and support the common good. We are presenting this call tonight with our long-term partners, the Workers Circle. So again, thank you for joining us. Next slide. Tonight, our topics are going to be Save Act 2.0, the zombie bill that refuses to die. There will be an update on LA. February's Black History Month, so I'll be talking about protecting Black history. We have a very special guest, a friend of mine, when we get back into voting rights, where he'll be talking about the Virginia Readmission Act of 1870. And you're going, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it's got a lot to do with voting in Virginia. And then our public policy director will be back and he will be talking about some Virginia voting rights legislation that has passed. And then I will be rounding us out with Virginia redistricting, and Janice Gay, our National Phone Bank Manager, will then be talking to you about what we are doing, and we will be giving you some actions. next slide. And Edwin, it is you.
I am.
Okay, guys, let's jump into it. So, oh goodness, the SAVE Act. It has been a time in the House and in the Senate on the federal level. We have been trying to find ways to protect voter suppression, and the administration has been doing everything that it could possibly do to do the opposite of that. Um, and so after the bill had failed last year, thanks to public opposition, of course, there was a renewed effort in Congress, in the United States Congress right now, which is a very blatant attempt, of course, to make it harder for millions of Americans to actually be able to vote and exercise the privilege to do so. It's really the kind of the faction of the extremist lawmakers that have come up with these crazy iterations of this bill. Um, it's been called the SAVE Act or the Mega Act. You make elections great again, or the Save America Act, which is why they call it the SAVE Act. These bills require a passport, birth certificate, or other citizenship papers, basically to register in federal elections. And honestly, that completely disrupts everything that we do when it comes to elections altogether, right? So things like online registration, doing registration drives through nonprofits, same day registration like we do here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, doing absentee ballots, doing registration by mail. All of those things are affected by this. And everyone's been able to exercise their vote regardless of what their situation is. And so I'll kind of briefly go over the three bills that they have come up with, and we'll jump right into it. Let's go to our next slide. So, at the end of January of this year, Chip Roy, congressman from Texas, Republican, along with 95 co-sponsors in the House, all Republican, came up with and passed HR 726, or excuse me, 7296, which is the Save America Act. And so what it requires is for individuals to provide documentary proof of their citizenship when registering to vote, and a photo identification and proof of citizenship to actually vote in federal elections, which we've never done before. And then it also requires individuals to provide proof of their U.S. citizenship at the polls. And it also prohibits states from accepting and processing an application to register to vote unless the applicant presents that documentary proof, which is kind of wild because, again, we've never done this stuff before. It even specifies that little real ID that everyone's been complaining about, and trying to make us all do, or like, basically atone and like retrieve. But in actuality, that doesn't even really help you unless you're in one of the five states mentioned, which is Washington State, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, and Vermont. So all you Virginians, all you folks in Connecticut, all you folks in California, the real ID don't work for us there. Okay. Um, let's roll to the next slide. And that initiative did pass in the House along party lines 218 to 213. Over in the Senate, it was introduced in 2025 of January by the junior senator of Utah, Republican, along with 48 co-sponsors. And what it required, which was the Safeguard American Voting Eligibility Act, which is S128. For all you ladies in the room, this bill really made me feel atrocious and icky inside, even as a man, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, it requires that married women and others whose legal names have been changed, which is about 69 million people, may not have a birth certificate, of course, that matches their current name. And so one of the things that Safeguard, what it does is in the asking of your birth certificate and things like that, it only has your maiden name. You weren't married when you were a baby. If you didn't get it updated or changed, it doesn't account for that, right? So that is a thing. And then for rural voters, to even register to vote, it would force them to basically take the drive uh, and go through the trenches, really, depending on what state you're in, honestly. you'd have to go to your, Capitol Center, or to even register to vote, even if you have the smallest error or to even make changes. And so again, it takes away from the something that we can easily do with the Board of Elections online. Literally, I can do it right now in front of us and take me 2 minutes. Um, it also says that eligible citizens who do not have a birth certificate or passport readily available, usually cannot vote. And, in that regard, we have to remember something. There's a crucial, very large part of the electorate, 18 to 24, um, usually don't have their passport immediately, right? I know I didn't have one from the ages 18 to 24. I didn't get mine until I was almost 31. And even in that, 21 million people across the board, fall into that category of not having, a birth certificate or passport readily available to exercise that privilege. Um, and yeah, like Andrea said, it literally will take away online voter registration, which is ridiculous. Um, let's roll to the next slide. Make elections great again. House Resolution 7300, which is the Save That 2.0. This was designed to kind of sew in the chaos of the House bill that's already been passed, and to like create more doubt in our election system than we've ever had. And honestly, for me, like you would think that they couldn't do or make things worse, but for whatever reason, every day they try and find ways to do that. And they keep being successful at it. But what it does is it basically mandates voter roll purges every 30 days, to create literally a roster ongoing every 30 days of inactive voters. It ends the 90-day period or the quiet period that protects voters from being thrown off the voter rolls right before election day. And so in Virginia, what that looks like is if you don't vote in, I think it's 4 elections, which is every 2 years or so in that regard. So 8 years usually it takes them to like even put you into the status of being an inactive voter. And all you have to do is go and vote in your next election. You're fine. It those something as simple as that is going to be taken away. It also will require proof of citizenship and proof of residence in order to register to vote, which I mean, people move every year. In Virginia and Richmond, particularly, we have the grand migration in the summer of every year because VCU students move in and VCU students move out. And so the entire city just kind of does a grand shift. And so what that would look like would be people becoming inactive voters because they're just living their life moving forward or what have you. And we want to limit that as much as we possibly can. There's a lot of questions in the chat, which I'll get to in a little bit. It also prohibits universal mail voting, which absentee ballots, requiring all male voters to submit an application in order to even receive a mail ballot. And so, even within that, people who are in the army, people who serve in different spaces and places overseas or what have you, who want to exercise that privilege, will no longer have the privilege to do that. Next slide. Okay, for the ladies, for the ladies, for the ladies. At the current moment, 69 million women do not have what would be considered a valid birth certificate by their definition. Why? Is because 84% of women who have married have changed their surname. Simple. It's a very simple, like old monarchical situation. All of my children and my male descendants, not my female descendants, shall always carry my last name. Um, but in some of the states that this is like a major situation are very pivotal states, Florida, Texas, California, and even in smaller states, you have kind of large numbers in that regard. Delaware, Maine, Hawaii, anywhere from 300,000 up to 440, like 42,000 women all fall into this category. And so it doesn't the Sayback doesn't directly address the name change discrepancies at all. And even though that's honestly behooving of the boards of elections or the registrars to even work through when it's time to redo or what have you, and making those options available, the Sayback completely takes away from all of that. And it basically treats women as an afterthought. So, doesn't consider their right to vote as the actual privilege that it is. It's just another way to create voter suppression for another class of people. Ah, okay. So I mentioned to you guys earlier, that it would take folks who live in rural areas a very long time to drive or to take long drives to have to even register to vote. Um, Andrea went and pulled these from the Center for American Progress, and what it looks like in particular states, as in Arizona and Wyoming, for example, to be able to successfully navigate to your board of elections in your capital state, in your capital or where they do, most of the electoral work, which you see in the main offices of. It's going to take a long time for folks to get there. In Mojave County, Arizona, it's going to take you 8 hours to get to go and actually fix something on your voter roll or change your name or do anything like that. In Park County, Wyoming, it's going to take you 7.5 hours to do that. And so these are literally day job trips to just go register or change something on your voter roll when literally you can do it from home right now. Takes you a couple minutes. Next slide. You got it, Andrea.
This is me. Number of you, if you're worker circle people or some common ground folks, you know that late last year we announced one of our early campaigns was going to be mobilizing Black voters in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So when I bought the Milwaukee voter rolls with 190,000 people, imagine my surprise to discover only 86,000 out of 190,000 people were still registered. So voter suppression states are not simply in the South. Wisconsin, since 2010, has been a huge voter suppression state. Now, how and why did they disenfranchise all these people? They used a method called voter caging. They sent voters a plain white, looks like junk postcard and said, if you still want to be registered in the city of Milwaukee, please respond to this postcard. Well, they sent 205,000 of those postcards, and 192,000 people did not respond. So 192,000 people in Wisconsin got kicked off the voter rolls. All right. So anyway, we currently have phone banks that the Workers Circle runs generally every Monday from, I believe it's 6 to 8 p.m., where we are reaching out to those voters who have been kicked off the rolls, and we're letting them know that you have been unregistered. And if you want to vote, then you're going to need to go and re-register, because again, I check my voter registration status literally every 3 months to make sure it still says that it's active. These voters have not been checking their voter registration status, or maybe they were, and they allowed it to lapse. All right. Next slide. Louisiana versus Calais. I just want to let people know where that is. This is the huge redistricting gerrymandering case where we're really fighting to protect Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Remember, we lost the formula for Section 5, where they figured out, have states been basically discriminating against voters? And so, since we have no formula, that means we have no ability to prosecute. Now they are going after the one thing that we did have violations of Section 2. They heard arguments on October 15th of last year. And there has been no notice from the court or no opinion as to where they currently are and what they are currently thinking. So again, Robinson versus Calais, Louisiana versus Calais, these were cases dealing with racial gerrymandering. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. Virginia and many of the southern states got at least one majority black district when they looked at the population of various areas and they said, this is a majority minority district. There should be at least one or two based on the population of this state districts represented by people of this class. Next slide. Oh, and Black history is being erased. February is Black History Month. And this is the first time since the 1960s where we are watching a major rollback of everything that is Black, brown, Jewish, technically non-white. $600 million in public school funding to prevent teachers from teaching Black history in schools. Virginia and a number of southern states made a huge effort 10 years ago to remove Confederate statues. And they've been ordered to re-erect and redisplay those statues. We also know that there has been an end to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there were major fights on college campuses where universities were told, get rid of your programs. The DEI programs are basically gone in the military and all the government agencies. Next slide. There are major funding cuts for museums, schools, anything that focuses on non-white Americans. They wanted to remove the Tuskegee Airmen, Jackie Robinson, and scaling back Black History Month at the Department of Defense. Next slide. A number of members of Congress have put together legislation trying to protect Black history. So we're going to be focused tonight on H.R. 844. Black history is American history, because that is actually legislation that says this is how we will teach African American history, and it will be part of American history. Next slide. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about at this point, because we are going to have an action that we're going to do on HR 844, is when we are looking at federal bills, which we do a lot, what makes a federal bill viable? Why would people say a bill is moving? Why do people say, well, I can't see any point in getting on that bill because it's not going anywhere? If you have a House bill like HR 844, if the bill has 100 or more co-sponsors, that bill is considered moving. Other people look at it and go, oh, I agree with that. Maybe I'm going to get on that bill. Generally in the House, they need roughly 215 to 218 people to pass a bill. 100 co-sponsors is almost at the halfway mark. In the Senate, we have 100 senators. If the bill has 40 or more co-sponsors, the bill is considered movable. Now, a bill can have less co-sponsors in terms of its numbers if the bill is bipartisan, meaning it has a Democrat and a Republican. Independents don't really count on this. They need to be a combination of D's and R's. And if a bill is introduced in both chambers, in the Senate and the House, because in order for that bill to become law, it is ultimately going to need to be passed by both the House and the Senate. Now, an orphan bill, meaning a bill that is only in one chamber, tends to stall and people stop co-sponsoring it. So, what we're going to be looking at doing, because it is Black History Month, is we are going to ask our senators to introduce the companion bill to H.R. 844. Next slide. So what we're going to do is we've created an Action Network advocacy alert where you put in your name, you put in your address, and it will automatically send an email to both of your senators. Now, I have a very positive letter for the Democratic senators because realistically, they should be looking at this Black History Month. This makes sense. I remind the Republican senators because we've seen some very negative attitude about diversity, equity, and inclusion and non-white people in America, that this is America. We're all here. We should all be working together. So, Josie, can you drop that in the chat, that link?
I got it in the chat already.
Oh, all righty. Thank you very, very much. So you can click on that link and then you just name and your address. If you want to add something to the email, you certainly can. We've left it open. And when you click submit, it just goes to your senators. Next slide. All right. Perfect. Richard Walker. Hopefully Richard is really working tonight. Here he comes. Richard Walker. I've known Richard for years.
Good evening, everyone. And forgive me, I'm juggling a couple of things at the same time. Primarily, I really want to talk about the Virginia Readmission Act. I was one of the original plaintiffs in the lawsuit that was presented toward the Department of Miss Beals, the governor, Youngkin, and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Basically, the Readmission Act of 1870 was when the Civil War, at the conclusion of the Civil War, the Confederates wanted to be a part of the Union. So what happened was that they said they will allow them through Virginia, but that Virginia could not change that legislation at all. So since 1870 up to 1920, they were allowing the Confederates to become a part of the Union. But subsequently in 1920, That's when they had 1902, rather, they had the first convention for the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, of which they said individuals that have committed crimes in the Commonwealth of Virginia were disallowed from voting. This was a racist act by the gentleman called Carter Glass, who was a delegate senator at the same time. And he said, this is a way to keep the darkies out of our government. All right. Since then, the ACLU, the Wilmerhelm Law Firm, as well as Protect Democracy. They filed this lawsuit on behalf of my organization, myself, initially Bridging the Gap in Virginia. But then they ultimately had another plaintiff, Mr. King, who had been denied his voting rights as well. And he was incarcerated because of substance abuse or crimes of drug convictions. But what was stated was that the Readmission Act was for those crimes that were they called common crimes, common crimes, which basically talked about such crimes as sodomy or rape or anything that was violent. So as a result of the Superior Court Judge Giblin, he ruled in favor that this was unconstitutional, that Virginia had been practicing this for all of these decades, centuries, that they are in, that they can't, he gave it in reference to the lawsuit, and we won. This just happened 2 months ago. Okay, it was just 2 months that we got the decision from the judge. So, and at this point, Virginia is in violation of denying those individuals that are in there for drug distribution or crimes that are not violent, that they should have their rights automatically restored. So they removed me from the lawsuit because it was based on, they indicated of me getting some funds from them, that it was taking me away from my organization because I was processing individuals, helping them get their voting rights back. As a formerly convicted felon, I received my voting rights back in 2012 by former Governor Bob McDonnell. So I've been on a mission ever since throughout the entire Commonwealth of Virginia to help individuals get their voting rights restored. This was the episode of my efforts, this lawsuit. So it made a great difference that we were able to get this lawsuit corrected, get the Commonwealth of Virginia to respond, and we're still working on it so that they can automatically restore the rights of those individuals that are still possibly incarcerated, to get them released and get them their voting rights. And then we also have the constitutional amendment that is also in the process right now because it passed both the House and the Senate and it's been signed by the governor at this point. So we have both outlets and pipelines that we can be able to have more individuals get their rights restored, especially with this whole stuff of this redistricting coming up. Individuals might want to have to participate in that, you know. So we're steadily moving on, and I'm kind of excited. And every organization that I'm a part of, I preach to them about, we need to make this happen ASAP. I don't have much beyond that, and I think someone put in the where you can find the 1870 readmission law, or you can go on Protect Democracy on their website, and you can see everything from the initial submission up through the decision from Judge Gibney in Superior Court. So and I'm, like I was telling Andrew, I'm in 2 meetings now, and I'm trying to convince my fraternity brothers it's time for us to act on some stuff as well, you know, to help make a difference in what happens in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you. Any questions, I guess?
Sure. Right. And there's Protect Democracy. All right. And Richard, I'm gonna, I'm going to mute you because we hear your other meeting.
Yeah, we hear your other
Or-
meeting. There were questions for him though. I did want to answer that one. Someone said, I think it was Mr. Vaughn, asked if this was something that is also applies in Mississippi. It does not apply in Mississippi. It only applies in Virginia because this was Virginia's specific readmission goal or mindset of going back and coming back into the union.
They have their own custom. You must do this and you can't do that again. And this was in Virginia's, and because it was in Virginia, again, very important thing that Richard said. People who are arrested and currently incarcerated for drug crimes as felonies, they should be released because it can't be a felony. Any other questions, Edwin?
I don't have any questions, but someone did say in the chat that if I would give an update about where the SAVE Acts are currently and if the likelihood of them to actually pass. And I want to speak to that. So long story short in that regard, I would say it's a little bit difficult to say whether or not it will, honestly. And the reason why that is because the likelihood of it passing will depend on the Senate, more than anything else, even with them, doing everything that they've done in the House in this regard to kind of move on that, has been very, at the forefront of everything. But, the Senate has been filibustering the crap out of it. And so
No, there hasn't been a filibuster yet. The Democrats would need to filibuster. They're not
yeah,
really doing anything. They're just staring at it.
I mean, for what I would foresee is that there would be a filibuster situation around that just generally, and if that is the case, you got to get 60 votes, and I mean, and that would require 5 defections from the Democratic Party over in the Senate at this juncture. So very low to moderate for 2026. Ask me this question post November, because that could change, and look very different. It could possibly just die altogether. And I hope it would be the latter of the two, which just stays and dies and goes away forever.
They were not able to pass it last year.
Mhm.
It would be interesting. I'm not seeing what would have changed to allow them to pass it this year. Now, they could say we're going to hold a vote so that we suspend the rule of the Senate and we pass this on simple majority vote. That would require 60 votes.
Right.
So it's going to be very, very difficult to move this legislation through the Senate. So we are watching for, do we see any sneaky, tricky things that they are trying to do? Remember, they tried to get the SAVE Act through the Elections Assistance Commission by saying, oh, anybody who registers to vote using the federal election form who uses it. But in the event people did, you would have to show proof of citizenship. That failed. So now they're back. The bill is again in the Senate. So
Yep.
let's see what the Senate does.
I mean, I don't think it's a guarantee, there's got to be a lot of negotiation and compromise around what that looks like to include some of the issues that we've already talked about, which is a lot of what the Democrats have, because that's disenfranchisement. We don't like that. I think Republicans see it as a voting integrity measure. That's good on face value, but in reality and implementation, I don't think it would actually work. It would kind of disrupt and undo a lot of the bureaucratic work that we've already done to make it as easy as we possibly can for people to be able to register.
Next slide.
Oh, it means
You have heard from Edwan. Edwan, we're going to need to go through this fairly quickly because I want to be able to get people out fairly close to being on time.
okay. So I would say so some of the bills that we've been working through in Virginia, which I'm so proud of our legislature this year with some of the things that we have been doing just from an overall perspective. But some of the things that has come through the House and through the Senate, which Andrea pulled up from Bill Track 50 for me. Thank you, Andrea. Registration, voter registration and restoration of political rights upon release from incarceration. That bill has passed. It is currently sitting in House Privileges and Elections, and we'll have a committee hearing tomorrow morning. I will be definitely making sure that I'm in there for that. SB 176, elections ranked choice voting, locally elected offices passed. It will also be heard tomorrow morning. Let's see, the constitutional amendment for marriage between two adult persons and the repeal of same-sex prohibition. That bill, thankfully, for my intersectionalities of existence, passed and will be in House of Privileges and Elections tomorrow as well. And then the National Popular Vote Compact enters Virginia into the interstate compact where we recognize the popular vote of the state being what candidate we want to choose for president. That will also be in House Privileges and Elections tomorrow. I want to see if there's any other bills. You can roll to the next slide. I know if there's any aforementioned ones outside of this, which we'll get to this 10-1. Go back. We'll get to that 10-1 because I've got a couple other things before we do that. On the House side of things, I know there's these 4 bills. We also put up elections for Sunday voting. We did do Sunday voting. That bill passed in the House. It is crossed over to the Senate already. It is in Senate Privileges and Elections as well. The Voting Rights Act of Virginia crossed over as well. And yeah, I would say with all of these, acts and things around election protection and voter suppression, Virginia has done an amazing job at every single solitary step of this and kind of navigating and mitigating where and when we can to help in that regard. We also aforementioned it's not here, but we also tried to do some campaign finance bills this go around. We've tried to do so many things that makes our democracy and the integrity of this process a little bit more real. Keeping dirty money out of the politics is a big part of that. We've tried to do that. They killed all of those bills, and it was a Democrat who chose to abstain that killed every single solitary one of them. And if you want to know his name is Senator Aaron Rouse. He's the chairman of the Senate Privileges and Elections Committee. Yes, the man who ran for lieutenant governor not too long ago. So yes, we need y'all. We need y'all's help. We need you to reach out to your legislators. We need you to reach out to these committee chairs and give them a screaming and let it, make our democracy work a little bit better for us.
Thank you. You're right. Okay. Next. Redistricting in Virginia. Redistricting in Virginia is this never-ending movie that goes back and forth. But basically, the Supreme Court has said Virginia may proceed with the election on April 21st, where we present the referendum to the voters of Virginia. And the Virginia Supreme Court said, we will rule on April 23rd. So have the election first, and then we'll rule. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to have Richard speak about the 1870 Readmissions Act is it kind of gives you the mindset of the Virginia Supreme Court. They tend to be very originalist in their thinking. They went back to 1870 and said, well, you were readmitted to the Union. And one of the things they said was, you cannot create any new felonies. And these drug laws, you've made them felonies. These are new felonies. You can't do that. The Republican argument against Virginia redistricting is the vote for redistricting must occur before an election. The vote for Virginia redistricting was held in early October. The election for governor was held in November. Now, in 1971, when Virginia rewrote and updated her constitution, and that remained in there, no one saw the concept of early voting. You voted on election day. So that's going to be, I believe, the way the Supreme Court looks at it. So anyway, Virginia has drawn a new 10-1 map. It was some brilliant map drawing, and we also have activities. Right now, we have opened our postcard campaign to 670,000 Black Virginia voters. We had everything done. So tomorrow was technically the 20th. We were able to launch that campaign yesterday. We are putting up phone banks to another 420,000 Black voters. Actually, the phone banks are already, so we are ahead of schedule. With this new map, if we win redistricting, 56.4% of Virginia voters will be in a new congressional district. Right now, I'm in the 7th congressional district. With this new map, I would be in the 8th congressional district, and that district would start in the city of Alexander, come down and literally go to the ocean. So the districts are very, very different, and they are very, very, very cleverly and cleanly drawn. Next slide. There is our official statement on redistricting, why we are redistricting. And I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm going to read the beginning and the end. The president has turned redistricting into a weapon, an all-out effort to distort representation and steal the 2026 midterm elections before voters even reach the ballot box. Texas, Ohio, North Carolina, all states with Republican legislatures have redrawn their districts to create more Republican districts because they expect they're probably going to lose the midterms if the districts as they currently are drawn were still in place. So Virginia is joining California. Our redistricting is temporary. It lasts until 2030 when we do the new census, and then we go back to our independent redistricting commission. These are extraordinary times. Virginia now stands at the intersection of extraordinary responsibility and extraordinary opportunity. What we do next will help determine whether this nation retreats from democracy or rebuilds it. I think that was a very, very nice way of saying, I'm from Chicago, so forgive me. You don't bring a snowball to a knife fight. But that's just me. Next slide. On Thursday, February 26th, I will be doing a deep dive into what these Virginia districts look like. Where are they from? Where did they take voters from? What counties are in these new districts? So that will give people a real feeling for what we've done in Virginia. And now, here to talk about what Black voters in Virginia Beach, which will be one of those impacted districts, our current Congressional District 2, it will still be in Congressional District 2, is a bank manager, Janice Gay. So, Janice, take it away. You've been talking to Virginia voters, you and your team, yesterday and today. What are these voters saying? John, you can stop sharing the slides.
Well, I'm excited about hearing from the voters, talking with some of the voters on the phones, as well as getting feedback from our team. Here in Virginia, they have spoken. Everybody wants to show up to early voting. People are excited because one of the things they feel is that it's an opportunity for seats to be flipped, especially in Richmond and Northern Virginia. They may live in Virginia Beach, but they also have family and they work outside of that area. So CD2 is very, very happy about the maps. They really are. They're also looking at, okay, this is exciting because it gives us a chance to have a more democratic stance. So this is some of the feedback that's coming from our voters. We're still calling, we're still making calls. We are on the phone 7 days a week. And we start at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 8 p.m. So we're engaging with our voters on a regular basis. And I'm excited. I can't wait to hear more from our voters as soon as, we get closer to early voting.
Right. Well, Virginia has 45 days of early voting, and our early voting starts on March 6th. I just dropped the link in the chat how you can join our phone banks. Now, we have a new auto dialer, and the auto dialer allows us to leave messages. As I said, we have 420,000 Black voters in the largest localities of Virginia that we are calling to remind them they are now going to have an election in April, but they, the voters, get to decide, is Virginia going to redraw her district lines or not? Yeah, I agree. 45 days of early voting is incredibly excessive, but that is what we have. And we are fighting for it and not allowing the other side to take us down to 15. We've had 45 days of early voting since 2020. Now, one last really, really fun thing. Early this morning, I got a note from a friend who said, this is just so exciting that our dear Abby, as in Governor Abigail Spanberger, will be delivering the rebuttal for the State of the Union. And I thought, okay, I haven't seen anything about that. And then early this afternoon, I saw the headline come across in the Virginia Pilot. So our current governor has an affordability agenda, which is really exciting people. there is a voting rights agenda, which is really exciting people. There is a very strong anti-ICE, not the cold snow, but the lawless thugs ICE, going through Virginia. And it's a very, very interesting time and a very, very kind of fun place to be. Yes, Finance and Appropriations amended CD2 and CD3. CD3 is Bobby Scott's district, and that was the original majority minority district in Virginia that they created in 1991 so that Virginia would have one Black member of Congress. We now have two. What they decided to do was they carved a few Black voters out of the majority minority district and added them into CD2 to blew it up because this new redistricting is partisan gerrymandering, which, according to the Supreme Court, is right now their favorite kind of gerrymandering. So if you're going to gerrymander, it better be partisan. And we're like, what? So again, LA is trying to protect Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, saying the representation should be racially proportional. And they're going, exactly. So we've got this very sort of seemingly talking out of both sides of their mouth. That's really new, Supreme Court. So it is going to be fascinating. But right now, it is the Virginia Supreme Court that is controlling the map drawing. Are we or aren't we in Virginia? And the General Assembly is drawing the maps. So again, this is fascinating. Yeah, Jed, I agree. This is going to be fun. So I invite you to join me next Thursday where I'll take a deep dive into the maps. We'll have more reports on what we're hearing from the voters because we'll have a phone bank up in Central Virginia, Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, where we're going to have another phone bank. Unfortunately, they have an election every 3 weeks because people that were delegates went to the administration when they had the special election. City councilmen and other elected officials won those, and then they had to have new elections to replace them. So they're going to be having elections in Fairfax until March 3rd. So they're like, we can't even deal with April 21st yet. So they're going to have an election on March 3rd and then begin early voting for a brand new one on March 6th. Oh, wow. Anyway, thank you all so very much for joining us. I had a lovely time. I hope you did too. Janice is looking forward to seeing you on the phones. We do phone bank training on Tuesdays and Thursdays for redistricting. The Worker Circle is running phone bank trainings on Monday for the Wisconsin voters that have been purged from the voter rolls. So we have plenty to do. If you are a postcarder, we have 670,000 postcards to send to Black voters in Virginia. So what do I think the Supreme Court is going to do? If the citizens vote no, then the Supreme Court is going to say the citizens decided and it's basically a moot point. If the citizens vote yes, And it is an overwhelming yes. And I'm going to say overwhelming would be 6 points or more. Governor Abigail won by 15 points. So give me 6 points on that yes vote. Then I believe the Supreme Court is going to say the voters of Virginia have spoken. Who are we to override the will of the voters? If the vote is a squeaker, then I'm not sure exactly what the court is going to say. Historically, I believe they're originalists, and they're going to say there was no such thing as early voting in 1971. Get out of here. So, everybody, Edwin's got a note to me. Oh, yes. And Edwin is going to begin public testimony training. So watch our website. We don't have the dates and times yet, but whatever state you live in, you've got a state legislature, there's also the federal government, and you may feel obliged to give public testimony on a piece of legislation that's very, very important to you. Edwin has developed a course that will teach you how to give very effective public testimony. Most people don't want to do it because they're like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to do it. There's a formula that you can use. So it will be on our website. We don't have the dates and times yet, but it will be in the evening. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. We will get this up for you. Yes, Edwin is great at teaching and speaking. He is amazing. So we decided we're not going to just keep Edwin in Virginia. We're going to let Edwin spread out and sort of share the wealth with the other states. And then I'm going to give you one more website link. Okay. Edwin put together legislative policy briefings on how to blunt the impact of the One Big Beautiful Bill, H.R. 1. And he did it for all 50 states. You can go there, find your state, download it, reach out to Edwin, have your legislators reach out to him, and he can talk about why he is suggesting this approach for your state. So, everybody, thank you all so much. You will get the recording, you will get the slides. It was a delight.